After all-time great Zelda Ocarina of Time graced the gaming industry, Zelda fans across the land eagerly awaited for a new sequel. Majora's Mask followed the same engine as Ocarina of Time and completely flipped the mechanics. Because of this, many fans did not consider this to be a true sequel. The following game released was for the GameCube. Nintendo released a tech demo to show off a realistic-looking Link and Ganon having an epic showdown of biblical proportions, but instead, they released this. Zelda Wind Waker's cel-shaded graphics caused dumb hunks to claim that Zelda was for babies. Wind Waker was a great game and even had a story that was proven to be a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but it's obvious that it wasn't a true sequel from an aesthetic point of view. It wasn't until we saw the release of Zelda Twilight Princess that the gaming world finally saw Zelda's true big boy sequel to Ocarina of Time. The realistic graphics were a big deal at the time, and although they don't age as well as Wind Waker's cel-shaded graphics, a realistic take on Hyrule has always caught my eye. Twilight Princess is a very dark game, both in graphic style and in story. Although it follows the same Zelda formula, I would award this story as the most ambitious of the franchise. Up to this point, every 3D Zelda game had a trusty companion, from Navi in Ocarina of Time to your boat in Wind Waker. Midna is by far the best companion in a Zelda game. As the story unfolds, you get to understand her story as well. With a legitimate personality, Midna is cocky, smart, witty, and has a lot of redeeming qualities outside of her rough and tough exterior. She's the only companion in a Zelda game where I didn't find it a chore to read her dialogue, because the story gives you a legitimate reason to make you feel as if she's really a part of the team, unlike other titles.
Hey, listen!
I'm not a guy who gets hung up on stories too much, but the bond that grows between you and Midna is incredibly memorable. And that's important because you're going to be going through a really dark and unforgiving storyline. Twilight Princess is a reminder to all nostalgic Zelda fans that we're older now, and there's a cold and dark world out there. Enter the Twilight Zone. These are the sections of the game where Link becomes a wolf. There's a new threat to the Kingdom of Hyrule. Slowly, this Twilight dimension is spreading across Hyrule, causing everyone to become spirits, powerless and doomed to suffer for eternity. Link, the Chosen One and owner of 1/3 of the Triforce, does not become a spirit, but instead becomes a wolf. Through Midna's guidance, you need to restore these infected Twilight sections into the original Light World, and eventually regain your true form. The ambiance of the Twilight Zone is so unique that it definitely was a highlight for me. Wolf Link added some variety to the gameplay. His jumping mechanic where he follows Midna was really fun to pull off, even though there's not that much challenge to it other than timing a couple of sequences. Wolf Link has this advanced attack where you can kill everything within a certain radius using Midna's help. I enjoyed being a wolf, but the meat and potatoes in this game are around Human Link with his awesome items. Luckily, you're restricted to only being Wolf Link a handful of times. Later on, you'll be able to change on the fly, which is a great call by the developers. What makes this installment of Zelda special is not necessarily anything new that was implemented, but instead how consistently impressive every dungeon was. Twilight Princess does linear dungeons right and provides us with a great variety of dungeons, all with their own mechanics that really switch up how you approach the puzzles with Link's arsenal of items. Every dungeon teaches you several new mechanics, typically utilizing your new item. In the first dungeon, you'll notice these bridges move from the wind. Eventually, you control the wind with your newly obtained boomerang, which allows you to traverse to new regions. This is a very simple example, but the dungeon gives you a mental note that wind rotates the bridge way before you obtain the wind boomerang. You will also face bridges that aren't moving and aren't facing you, almost seeming like a dead end. That is very intentional level design because that dead end is now planted in the gamer's brain, and once the gamer obtains the wind boomerang, they all know where to go. Again, I know it's simple, but the gamer now knows that wind moves bridges, and the gamer has wind. The classic Zelda formula of using your items to your advantage just keeps getting more advanced. The double claw shot made for really creative dungeon design where you have to constantly think about aerial spacing as you try to get from room to room. The iron boots allow you to walk on shiny things upside down, which will enable you to get across various rooms as well. Each item serves its own purpose as a way to interact with the dungeon's environments in order to get by. The combat has been expanded from past Zelda games. Although it's mostly just mashing the sword button, you do learn other abilities like parrying with the shield only to follow up with a flip above your opposition and stabbing your enemy in the back. Other abilities like Fatal Blow allow you to strike the heart of your damaged opponent, kicking them while they're already down. The realistic world of Hyrule is gigantic, but that doesn't mean I'm going to award it with a stamp of approval from an open world standpoint. Although Hyrule Field looks impressive with its realistic and gigantic space, it does not provide much to do. Constantly you'll find yourself roaming empty fields with maybe a couple of enemies to battle. You won't find wacky characters on Hyrule Field assigning you side quests to conquer. This was definitely a lost opportunity by Nintendo. The one plus of Hyrule Field is always bumping into this dude. I have nothing against linear adventures, but I had to call out the fact that Nintendo tried to disguise Twilight Princess as an open-world game, when in reality, it may be even more linear than Ocarina of Time. Although a true open world is lacking, the characters make up for a lot of that. The wacky Zelda charm may be at its peak in this game. This isn't the first game where Link is indisputably a hunk, but Twilight Princess takes this to another level. Everyone wants Link in this game. Trust me, everyone.
Hi!
You can pick up Twilight Princess on the GameCube, Wii, or Wii U. The HD remake is on the Wii U, and it's definitely my favorite experience thanks to the graphics and controls, but I played on all platforms and you can get away with any of them. Zelda is hands down my favorite franchise in all of gaming. It absorbs me into this world that gives me a feeling of progression that is unmatched. In Twilight Princess, you go from being a simple farmer boy in a small village to a wolf in some crazy alternate dimension to becoming the hero of Hyrule. The gameplay alone in Twilight Princess will hook any gamer in, but it's the feeling of scale and progression that will always keep the player attached throughout the playthrough. If you miss the days of Ocarina of Time and you want to sink your teeth into a deep adventure, Twilight Princess is the game for you.